Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. For those of you new to our show, imagine a few guys sitting around a bar without the drinks talking sports and business with you, the audience listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, well-known sports radio personality Bruce McGowan, and Vern Glenn of CBS affiliate KPIX-TV in San Francisco. On this show, we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. In addition, we're going to be asking sports trivia questions where we're giving away vacations to the first three callers with the correct answer. Our phone number is 888-660-4495. Write that number down, 888-660-4495, because you're going to use that number to answer the trivia questions for 3 vacations given away during each commercial break. That's right, we're giving away 9 vacations during this show. Now, the vacations are not sponsored by the radio station, but by Lighthouse Resort and Marina. The vacations are free. Their only request, a $75 cleaning fee to cover housekeeping expenses. Check them out at lighthouse4fun.com. Today's trivia theme is NFL players who became offensive. You'll understand when we ask the questions. And we have a special guest today, Gary Pomerantz, who's going to discuss the history of the Steel Curtain, the famous Pittsburgh Steelers of the 1970s. Also get into a few other topics such as John Moffitt is quitting the Broncos for lack of playing time, and he's tired of risking his health. We'll discuss that a little bit. The French government is proposing a super tax that is impacting sports, and the tax hasn't even occurred yet. Former Notre Dame quarterback Everett Golson is taking responsibility for his mistake of cheating academically. Richaard Sherman of the Seahawks is sharing a little bit about if he was NFL commissioner, what he would let the players do and have a little bit more freedom. How will this NBA season be remembered? Maybe the year of the whistle. The greatest sports deal of all time. Why are the Pacers so good? And possible Washington Redskins name changes. If you have a question, email us, Edward at SportsEcon101. We'll try to answer it on the air. This segment of Sports Econ is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding 8% or more, secured by real estate. It doesn't get any more conservative than that. Check them out at PacificPrivateMoney.com. Don't touch that dial because you're listening to Sports Econ 101, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn and Bruce McGowan.
Hiya.
Okay, and we are in the studio here with Gary Pomerantz, who wrote a book called Their Life's Work, and it has to do with the brotherhood of the 1970s Pittsburgh Steelers then and now. Gary, welcome to Sports Econ 101.
Good to be on with you guys.
All right. Go ahead, Vern.
First of all, for any Raider fan that's listening, they're going to say, damn it, that ball hit the ground.
I'm wearing a Raider hat. I still think so.
That's right.
Not only hit the ground, but it hit Fuqua.
That's right. That's right. Perfect. We're talking
And
about
there was a clip on Phil Villapiano.
How about it, Gary? I mean, in your research and all this, how'd you see it? We're talking December 23rd, 1972. I was 10 years old. And good gracious. I mean, there's all kinds of stories surrounding that play, the outcome, the refs going, hey, can you guarantee my safety if we call it a certain way? Spill it out for us, Gary. Because I know you got the inside.
I went to the man directly in his place, Frenchie Fuqua, in his man cave at home in Detroit. I want you to know that man is still talking about the Immaculate Reception.
Yeah, why not?
He's told that story 10,000 times. You think he threw the ball or scored the touchdown?
Yeah.
And all he did was take Tatum's hit right in the middle of his back.
Which it's good that he's still alive
to tell a story.
Yeah, because the assassin has put a few guys out. Go ahead.
You know, what's interesting is to think, what would have happened if that happened today? Okay, if the Immaculate Reception, first thing, of course, Twitter explodes.
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Right, but the other thing is you got 52,000 people with cell phone cameras, all of them playing in video.
Yeah, sure.
And so you'd have 52,000 versions of the Zapruder film, right?
Right.
And so...
But which, by the way, the rules changed, so there would have been a legal catch anyway.
Well, what most people don't think about nowadays, particularly younger fans, is that there weren't very many cameras back then. You know, today they just, half the seats have a camera in them, and the networks are all over it. And so we'd know. Today we would definitively know. Is there a chance we wouldn't? Yeah, I suppose there's always that chance. What happened back in the day? Well, every time Frenchie Fuqua tells a story, it ends the same way. He says, all right, close the doors. I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to take it to my grave. And someone or something interrupts him, and he says, all I can tell you is what happened that day was truly immaculate.
It was a Rob job, and I'm here to tell you because I grew up with the Raiders. But it's interesting. You talk to Jack Tatum, you talk to George Atkinson and Phil Villapiano, and I've talked to all those guys, and they are still really upset about it, and with good reason, because it was a controversial play, and it could have gone either way.
I wonder how much more they'd be upset about the tuck rule.
Oh my God! Well, you know,
Oh, geez, I was there for that game.
Yeah,
oh,
I was doing sidelines for the Raiders. It was interesting. That game kicked off the Patriots' great run.
Yes.
And the Frenchie Fuqua immaculate reception of Franco Harris kicked off the Steelers' great run, and the Raiders got jobbed on both of them.
I'm just wondering
Last
why,
game at Gillette Stadium.
Why wasn't Bradshaw sacked? That's kind of
Well, yeah, they should have had
They
it.
should have had it.
No, the thing was the Raiders had nobody to blame but themselves. But Gary, you know, Stabler made a great play about 2 minutes before that that put the Raiders in the lead with a scramble, and I mean that would have been the story of the game had that the freakish play, 60 yards with what was it, 3 seconds to go, I think.
Right, and Stabler ran 37 yards for a touchdown with 73 seconds to go.
Yeah.
What's interesting is today you go to Pittsburgh, and when you go through the airport, they have 2 statues in the concourse. One of General George Washington, and right next to it, one of Franco making his catch. And whenever Franco passes, and he does a lot of traveling these days, fans are always saying, there he is. They pull out their cell phone and say, Franco, would you mind? I talked to Villapiano about it, and he's seen the statue. He says the next time he sees it, he's going to tackle it.
And what about the part about the referees saying, guarantee our safety?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these legends grow, and Jim Otto will say that he said there was going to be a riot if they turned it the other way.
Probably would have.
Yeah, there were 5,000 people on the field easily.
What you have to remember is
Yeah.
The Steelers have been losing for 40 years.
Yeah.
So to lose again wouldn't have caused a riot. It would be same old, same old.
Yeah. Well, I was telling these guys from months ago, my father-in-law played for the Pittsburgh Steelers for a very short time before they had the face masks. So, yeah. That was,
Back in the Bill Dudley years.
Those were the years where
Right.
they were terrible.
Yeah, but anyway, it's a part of lore. NFL Films has called it the most controversial play in the history of the game. And
Wow.
so, I interviewed a number of Raiders, and it was really fun. We had a book party in the city a few weeks ago, and Gordon Gravel of the Steelers showed up, and so did Joan Bella of the Raiders.
Oh, yeah.
What's interesting is that
John's a good guy.
they didn't know they lived in the same town. They both live in Danville,
Yeah.
and they drove in together, and they were both drafted in 1972, the same year that famous play or infamous play.
Now I'm trying to remember. Was Carl Weathers on that team? Had he left the Raiders to go to Hollywood back then?
No, I think he was still with the team. I think he was
It's like a special teams guy,
Yeah,
or
special
something,
teams
right?
guy.
Yeah,
and backup linebacker.
So
Yeah.
Apollo Creed was in the house.
Yeah.
that's right. That's right. Now, what did Franco say?
Well, I mean, it's Franco's legend. What do you expect him to say?
I ain't touched the ground. No way.
Yeah, when you look at the film of the play that NFL Films put together, they cobbled together a couple different angles. So they show the hit, and you can't tell from Tatum hitting Fuqua in the back. And then they show Franco making the catch, and there's no doubt that he caught the ball above the ground.
He did.
That's
He did.
and I don't understand why Raider fans keep bringing that up. There's no doubt that Franco caught the ball.
And sour grapes. I mean,
The doubt is about who hit the ball. Was it Tatum or was it Fuqua? And if it hit Fuqua and then was caught by Franco, it's an illegal catch.
Yeah,
It doesn't count,
exactly.
and the Raiders take over on downs.
Which is interesting because I like the rule the way it is now because that's why you had the Marx Brothers, right? They did the hook and ladder, right?
Right.
You couldn't have a hook and ladder play if it touches two offensive players. So
It makes the play exciting.
Yeah.
In fact, last weekend, how about the end of regulation in the Ravens-Bengals game?
Yeah, that was
Oh
amazing.
my
What was it?
God.
Like 3 guys?
That was a
Yeah.
Hail Mary, and just
Yeah.
the guy just
Knock
Green standing in the
the
right
ball
place at the
down.
right time,
yeah.
Yeah.
and just look what I found here in the back of the end zone.
I mean, can you imagine telling the Ravens backs, okay, now if the ball comes close to you, knock it down.
Don't hit it up in the air.
Hit it up in the air. But if it's probably just such a bang play. You don't really
Well,
think
Fuqua
about it.
had Tatum had 3 choices in that play. He goes for the ball. He lets Fuqua catch it and just falls on him, and there's seconds
Yes.
ticking away.
That's a good point.
Or he does what he always did, and he bludgeons the guy.
Yeah.
He just tries to knock him into tomorrow.
Yeah, because if you notice, he doesn't really use his hands. I don't remember.
Hit him with his shoulder.
Hit him
with his shoulder,
Interesting story about this. The 2 previous plays, Tatum knocked both passes down. So that was the third in a row. But unfortunately, he didn't use his hand this time. If he reached over, maybe the whole play never would have occurred.
Which is what Dante Whitner of the 49ers, or Dante Hittner
That's right.
of the 49ers actually tries to do.
Yeah.
And he says, hey, I'm just trying to inflict pain.
Yeah. That's why they call him Dante Hittner. I got to ask Gary, though, the thing that intrigues me about the Raiders and Steelers, because I went to all these games when they were in Oakland and covered a few of them as a young reporter, the matchups and the rivalries with these two teams, and I hate to say it, the hatred. George Atkinson thought Lynn Swan, he always, every time I'd ask him, he's soft.
Yeah,
he's
called
soft.
his manhood out.
Especially in the low, right behind his neck.
Yeah,
And
well,
the back, he was soft.
he knocked him down twice. And
Knocked him out.
Knocked him out twice.
Yeah.
But if you talk to George about this, one of the reasons he knocked him out that one time, it was a cheap hit in the opening game of 1976, was that Mel Blount dumped Cliff Branch on his head and could have broken his neck.
See, the old days before that, it was Chiefs Raiders.
Yeah, but the Steelers Raiders 5 years in a row in the playoffs, they knocked each other out.
Yeah, 72, 3, 4, 5, 6. And when the teams played this year, Mike Tomlin tried to lean on the history of the rivalry, getting his team fired up. Didn't go very far.
Not that time.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to cut to our first commercial break here. And again, the theme is NFL players who became offensive. All right. Which soccer-style kicker played 19 seasons and never missed a game due to an injury and was second in all-time scoring when he retired? The first three callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-660-4495 to answer this question. Which soccer-style kicker played 19 seasons and never missed a game due to an injury and was second all-time scoring when he retired? Again, 888-660-4495. Make sure to include your name, your email address. Speak slowly. Spell out your email your email one letter at a time. Don't touch that dial because Sports Econ 101 will be right back.
Is that Morton Anderson?
John Stenerud?
I'm not going to tell anybody. Even when we come back, it's still going to be a secret.
Could be Gary Anderson.
Gary, oh yeah, that's right. Who played 1 year with the Niners, I think.
Yeah.
And also with the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good one. Roy Girella was a good kicker. Did you talk to him at all? Gorillas.
I talked to Matt Farr. Couldn't find Jarrell.
Really?
Yeah,
All right.
Wow. He's in New Mexico somewhere.
Wow. How many of the front four are still alive?
One.
Minshew Green is the only one?
Yeah, it's the only
Holmes
one
is
left.
dead.
Yep.
White is dead. And
Elsie Greenwood
is dead.
Just died.
We were just talking about that. Holmes is the one that everyone kind of forgets
Oh,
about.
he was crazy, too. He was shooting at a helicopter one time.
He shaved his head in the shape of an arrow.
Yeah.
He said it pointed him to the quarterback.
Jack Lambert's still.
Come back on that.
Did you talk to Jack Lambert?
He's still
Well, I
missing
talked
teeth.
to his answering machine.
Oh,
Oh.
got to reach, huh? He was kind of a hard ass. I remember interviewing him at a couple of Super Bowls, and he was not a real friendly, warm, chummy guy.
What about Jack Ham?
Very nice guy.
Very nice guy.
Very nice guy.
And you obviously talked to Bradshaw, right? He's
And how about Rocky Blyer? You must have talked to him.
Great guy.
Yeah, there's a good guy. Wounded in Vietnam.
yeah, the war hero.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Shrapnel is what was his feet or legs?
Oh.
Yeah. Oof.
Bullet in the thigh, shrapnel in the foot.
Wow.
When we come back, let's talk about
The book.
the book.
Yeah.
What a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why he's
Why did
here.
I think of
We
that?
spent the first segment we didn't even talk about the book. Come
Yeah,
on, we
I
gotta
gotta
talk
get
about the book.
Yeah.
All right.
I gotta get a copy of this book, definitely.
Okay, ready? Here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn and Bruce McGowan.
Hello.
And we're in the studio here with Gary Pomerantz, who wrote a book called Their Life's Work, The Brotherhood of the 1970s Pittsburgh Steelers Then and Now.
I'll play a little. We'll play talk show host. Gary, what inspired you to write this?
We gotta go to the
You
question.
discern.
You've heard
Oh yeah, we got the trivia question.
Trivia question. Okay, here's the trivia question. Which soccer-style kicker played 19 seasons, never missed a game due to an injury, and was second in all-time scoring when he retired? Bruce.
I was gonna say Morton Anderson.
No. Vern.
God, that was my guess.
Okay.
Dang it.
Okay,
Well-
now it's correct. No, I'm kidding, I'm
Jon Stenerud.
kidding. Jan Stenerud.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is
All right.
That was my
correct.
second choice, but
And who was first back then?
first in scoring.
Yeah.
Gary Anderson was first in scoring.
Well, but when he
at the time
retired
he
at the
retired.
time.
George Blanda?
Yes,
George
Blanda.
Blanda.
George Blanda.
The great George Blanda.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
now go ahead and play talk show host.
Yeah, Gary. Yeah. Barbara Walsh. What inspired you? Their life's work. What inspired you to write that book?
You know, in 1981, I was a young sports writing intern at the Washington Post, 20 years old, and I got this dream assignment: go up to Latrobe.
Back when Kornheiser had hair.
Not much.
Okay.
And go up to Latrobe, to the Steelers training camp, write a story about was this great dynasty finally done. And almost all the stars were still there. Interviewed Bradshaw, Joe Green, Swan, Stallworth, yeah, and they were incandescent. They were lit from within. These guys, like the Raiders, were great interviews. They had swagger. They were historic, and they knew it. And they had this arresting array of talent and personality. A 20-year-old intern couldn't miss that. So all these years later, 32 years later, when the game of football is really under the microscope, I thought, if I'm going to take on the game for its gifts and costs, what it gives these guys and what it takes from them, who better than the greatest team since the Earth's crust cooled? Those guys I met in Latrobe 32 years ago.
Yeah. And you're right, they really were. I mean, as much as I hate to say, because I grew up a Raider fan, they were that much better than the Raiders. Because their defense was incredible.
Well, we were talking about the steel curtain and
Yeah.
how Ernie Holmes had an arrow. What did you say? He shaved his head.
Shaved his head with an arrow, and you
And
got a
why
picture
was
of it. You got a picture of it in your book.
And why is that arrow there?
Fats Holmes used to say the arrow pointed him in the direction of the quarterback.
How did he see that? He must have had a little mirror on top, though.
Yeah, I can't think of another defensive guy like that would go and have his own Coca-Cola commercial like Mean Joe Green that just went viral.
Yeah.
Even today, I mean, it's one of the most famous commercials out there.
You think of the Raiders and the Steelers at that time. The only thing that kept the Raiders from winning 5 Super Bowls was the Steelers.
That's right.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
It's almost like looking at Will Chamberlain. If not for Russell and the Celtics, Will might have run 5, 6, 7 NBA titles.
Yeah, the Raiders were the Steelers' bitch.
Well, actually, and they
Right,
were the
right.
Kansas City Chiefs and the Miami Dolphins, and gosh, but it was the Steelers mostly. I mean, as you pointed out, Jerry, 5 times in the postseason these teams met.
In a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now the
4,
Raiders
5,
did win 2 of those now.
Yes,
Yeah.
they did.
That's true.
There's a great picture that John Bella showed me from the Immaculate Reception game where he starts pointing to players on the field. He's counting Hall of Famers on the 2 teams.
Oh,
the Raiders.
wow.
I think he counted 11 or 12.
Wow.
Just in the picture. Everybody wasn't even in the picture.
Yeah.
The talent level was that amazing.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I can't imagine Jack Lambert doing one of those commercials, though. Half his teeth missing.
Yeah, and at the forefront of it, Chuck Noll, who just seeming I didn't know him, but I mean, just seems like he was just this stoic,
Father figure back.
emotionless, kind of guy that would just pace the sidelines and just boom, let him go.
And John Madden was known to his players as
Pinky.
Pinky,
because
that's right.
whenever he got furious, which was almost every moment of every game, he turned pink.
Well, that's
Pink
funny.
with rage.
Yeah.
Did you have a chance to talk to John Madden?
I did not
Yeah.
and would have loved to, but I
Yeah.
can tell you I talked to quite a few of the Raiders.
Yeah.
Just talking to Phil Villapiano.
Oh.
Fill you up with
Oh, yeah.
He's
their
the best.
tape recorder. He's really-
He's the best as far as interviews. He is.
and last December was the 40th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception.
That's right.
They unveiled this monument in Pittsburgh, and Fuqua and Franco Harris was there, and so too Phil Villapiano, who was initiated into Steeler Nation, and he looked up at skyward and said, "What will Al Davis say?"
And he was the one who would have made the tackle at the very end.
Well, wasn't he? You tell the story, Gary, because he was in the area, but he, I guess, was going to nail Fuqua along with. Anyway,
Oh, okay. So who's the Raider who missed the tackle on Franco at the very end?
Jimmy Warren.
Jimmy Warren.
Oh.
But even if he brought him down, it would have been in chip shot range for a field goal.
Yeah, that was about the 5 or 6
Yeah,
yard line.
yeah.
Villapiano was covering Franco,
That's it.
and when Bradshaw was flushed out of the pocket,
Yeah.
he drifted from Franco and went towards the ball.
Sure.
And Franco had always been told in college at Penn State by Joe Paterno, when you're on the field, no matter how the play develops, go to the ball, go to the ball. So he did. And Villapiano told me that when Tatum hit Fuqua and the ball ricocheted 7.5 yards the other direction, went right over his head, and he realized,
Wow.
It wasn't quite as fast as Franco for that.
Now on the Steelers side, it was like the one guy you track down that just filled up a notebook. I mean, I know about Villapiano and on the Raiders side, but on the Steelers side,
well, 2 guys I would point to. First, Joe Green. Joe Green was the foundational piece of the team. He was, he was named the 13th greatest player in NFL history. He wasn't happy about that because Joe Green doesn't like being 13th.
That's right. Right.
But he was the sheriff in the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
We hear all the story about Richie Incognito in Miami and everything coming on there. And that kind of thing could not have happened with the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 70s because of Joe Green. He wouldn't have let it happen. He was in control of the locker room. And there's a great moment where George Perlis is the defensive coach, and he looks out on the field. He's only got 10 of his 11 defenders out there. And he looks to his left, and Ernie Holmes is standing there. And he looks at Holmes and says, "What are you doing?" And Holmes says, "Joe threw me out of the game." He says, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, Joe said if I wasn't going to run the right plays to get the hell out." He says, "Get the hell back in." And Ernie Holmes says, "No, not until Joe says it's okay."
Yeah, if I were him, I would have knocked him on his can. All 6'0" of me, 185 pounds.
What about Jack Lambert? What was he? Were you
I was
able
going
to?
to say, Joe's a very emotional guy, Green. And,
Right.
and there's a moment when he was talking about the passing of Dwight White in 2008. And he was remembering getting that phone call from Franco Harris, where Franco just said, "He's gone." And Green was inhabiting that moment of the phone call again. And he was looking off in the distance, and he said, "He's gone." And the tears came. Joe is that emotional. Also, John Stallworth is a deeply introspective guy. The title of the book, Their Life's Work, comes from Chuck Noll. He used to say to his players when he was about to cut him, if you were my son, I'd say it's time to get on to your life's work, which means not football.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And he'd gotten that phrase from his coach, Paul Brown, in the 1950s. And Stallworth was one of the guys who took it constructively. He went back and got his MBA, his master's degree, while he was playing for the team. And then when he was done in 1987, after a 14-year career, he went home to Huntsville, Alabama, and built an information technology firm in the aerospace industry. And sold it for $69 million.
Wow.
And is now a minority owner.
Wow.
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 Did not know this.
Yeah, a deeply introspective guy. When he talked about his teammates, we talk about what the game gives and what it takes. We know what it takes, right? 12 guys on this team died before the age of 60, and from a variety of causes. Cancer, heart attacks, accidents involving a car, a falling tree. Mike Webster stands apart from the other 11 in that regard. Mike Webster, a much-loved teammate, Hall of Fame center, played 17 years in the NFL at a position no man should play in the NFL for 17 seasons.
Sure.
And, the shorthand summary of his life is he retires at 40, he dies at 50, and in between, he loses his money, his marriage, and precipitating all of that, his mind. And he's the first player diagnosed with CTE. So they paid their price. But when you talk about what does the game give them, it gave them each other. This is a pre-free agent era. So these guys were teammates for 10 years and more. The players today in the NFL will never know the depth of camaraderie and brotherhood that the Steelers had and still have because they're grasshoppers. They go from team to team for bigger contracts. We understand that, but there's a cost. And Stallworth talked about wanting to get the team together one more time. And he went into this dream state almost, talking about even the guys who have passed away, bringing them back for one more conversation in which we say, what makes you happy? What makes you sad? The kind of questions guys don't ask each other when they're 25. And so,
I'm just getting chills thinking about that. I mean, and in your book, Their Life's Work, how do people get a hold of the book? Just Amazon or?
Well, it's, as they say, available in all the usual places.
On newsstands now.
Yeah, not newsstands, but bookstores and Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com as well.
Okay.
But we should all be so lucky to have friendships at that depth.
Yeah.
I got to ask you about Stallworth too, because I've covered a lot of Super Bowls back in the 70s and 80s, and one that stands out to me was the Rams Steelers, the last Super Bowl they won, and Stallworth made the catch that clinched the game. A great catch. The safety, I can't remember for the Rams who it was. He went up and just missed getting the ball, and Stallworth made this incredible back shoulder catch and then went about 30 more yards. It was a 76-yard play. And to me, it was one of the greatest moments I've ever seen in a big game. Does he ever talk about moments like that, on the field, just how they're frozen in time almost?
Yeah, I asked him about that play. Your memory's spot on because that ball Bradshaw threw over Stallworth's wrong shoulder, his outside shoulder, and he made the catch and took it in, and that was the end of the Rams. They did ran the same play later in the game, beat him again for a big play. Stallworth talks about it when asked. One of the great things about today is I bring a DVD, put it on a laptop, and he's pointing at himself on the screen as his accelerating figure moves past the Ram defensive back. So it was fun to talk with him about it.
Okay, Gary, stay with us because we're going to talk about some other stuff. Thanks very much for joining us. Second commercial break, second trivia question. Which Hall of Fame offensive line player played for the Rams for 13 seasons and starred with Burt Reynolds in The Longest Yard? Now, if you remember, Ray Nitschke played in the movie, but this was an offensive player, offensive line player. The first three callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Call 888-660-4495 to answer this question. Which Hall of Fame offensive line player played for the Rams for 13 seasons and starred with Burt Reynolds in the movie The Longest Yard? That's 1974, I think. 888-660-4495. Make sure to include your name, your email address. Speak slowly. Spell out your email. Not quickly like the way I'm speaking. Don't touch that dial because Sports Econ 101 will be right back.
That Tom Mack?
Yes.
Wow.
I thought so, yeah.
Brucey.
Very good.
I remember him vaguely in that movie.
It was a fun movie.
I don't think
Yeah,
he
it
was
was.
great. What
The-
position was he though?
He was a tackle, I think, or a guard.
I'm trying to remember what was he the guy who gets nailed in the nuts and has to go down? I don't remember.
That was a defensive guy that got nailed.
Well, the guys
Well,
that
you
were-
got me wondering.
The guys from that team I always remember in the front, the fearsome foursome, Deacon Jones,
Merlin Olsen,
Lamar
Rosie
London,
Greer.
and Rosie Greer.
Rosie's the only one left for that one.
Is that? Yeah, that's right. God,
the biggest
they're all
one.
gone. Yeah, and that team came so close.
Is he the one that stepped out of the way to give Sirhan an open shot at JFK?
Who's that? Rosie?
I mean, RFK. Yeah.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say
In the
stepped-
kitchen.
You think he stepped aside?
You know,
No, not on purpose, but I mean.
You know,
yeah.
Rosie had a hold of Saran, was choking him. He was ready to kill him.
Yeah.
I mean, they actually had his arm and his gun. He wouldn't let go of the gun. And there was an announcer named Andrew West who was doing a taped interview with Kennedy. And he turned on his microphone, and he goes, "He still has the gun. The gun is pointed at me. Get the gun. Get the gun."
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I remember on the tape somebody just saying, "Grab him, Rosie.
Grab him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We don't want another Oswald.
Yeah.
Too late.
Speaking of Kennedy, last night and tonight, PBS has this amazing special in the American Experience 2-hour special. Last night was all about Kennedy up till the election. Tonight is from the point of when he
Oh,
Is
is it on PBS?
PBS. It's
Okay.
terrific.
Yeah, 'cause
It's absolutely
the
terrific.
50th anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really and it's and
Will they replay part one again?
I'm sure they will. I'm sure you can find it somewhere. But part 2 is going to be really interesting because they're going to deal with all of his entire administration and the assassination. And up to yesterday was all about his youth, the war, the PT-109, the Senate, and all that. Fascinating stuff. They kind of gloss over some of his indiscretions, but they don't ignore them.
It's got to be the most fascinating political family of all time.
Well, I think that's
Everybody keeps dying.
Yeah.
it's
Serious causes, some of them.
Shakespearean. It really
Yeah.
is. It really is.
Tom
Yeah.
Mack, University of Michigan,
Wow.
number 65, 13 years for the Rams, protected Roman Gabriel to Pat Hayden.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? You could just find all this
Yeah.
by going to on your
Finding all your
cell,
questions.
on your phone.
That's right.
For crying out loud.
And no
I know,
cheating,
it's
no
just,
cheating.
oh,
Actually,
Roman
that
Gabriel,
was-
number 18.
The other questions you're gonna. I think the last one.
I save all this information. It's totally useless. And I can't even figure out.
Go on Jeopardy.
I know.
Sports Jeopardy.
I don't know.
Okay, ready? Well, let's see I got a whole bunch of stuff here we haven't covered yet, but.
Wait, dude, this is fascinating.
Yeah. Oh no, it's great.
Yeah.
Love it. And again, some of the stuff I have is like whether we cover it this week or next week. Who cares?
Mhm.
Like, here we go.
Should do 2 shows with this guy.
Have to have you on again.
Yeah.
Here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn and Bruce McGowan
Nice to be with you.
and Gary Pomerantz. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hey, you should mention Gary's son, Ross, pitched for the minor league San Rafael Pacifics this year. I was doing the play-by-play on internet radio, and Ross is a very fine middle reliever and spot starter.
There you go.
And where's he
He
gonna-
gets it all from his mom.
Was she a baseball player? Softball player? No. Okay. And where's Ross going to be this year? Is he going to come back with the Pacifics?
He's considering all options, as they say. It may
Okay.
be time to get onto his life's work now.
Oh, excellent segue.
Like-
to the
Yeah,
title
Speaking
of the
his life's
book.
work,
Like
yeah.
his dad, though, he's a very smart young man and not a very likable guy
How
too.
old is he?
He's 24.
Yeah.
24, yeah.
Okay, still
Yeah.
got some years to go.
Not to say I followed closely, but 4-2 with a 3.52
Yeah.
ERA.
He was solid.
Yeah, but who's counting?
I listened to Bruce. in person 17 times, and
we had you on the
That's right.
during the game.
There you
That's
go.
right.
Yeah,
I love that.
was
Okay,
fun.
here was the second commercial break trivia question. Which Hall of Fame offensive line player played for the Rams for 13 seasons and started with Burt Reynolds in the longest yard? Bruce, you know
that would be Tom Mack.
Tom Mack.
Yeah.
And next time I'm just going to say, which Hall of Fame offensive player am I thinking? I mean, come on. I mean,
I don't.
Right.
He's one of those guys. I mean, the offensive linemen are always the most anonymous, but for some reason, Tom Mack just, I don't know, it popped into my head. I remember that one.
A great movie.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Terrific.
You know what? Adam Sandler actually, I thought, did a pretty decent job.
Not
in
bad.
The remake.
Not bad.
Hey, Gary, they could make a movie out of this book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
God.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, a really good one, I think.
Yes.
who plays Chuck Noll?
I'm old enough now. I'll do it. No.
Boy.
Think about it. Who could play Chuck Noll right now?
God.
Out of Hollywood.
George Clooney.
No. It's
You
got
got to be something stoic. We'll think about it. Ed Harris. Okay. John Moffitt quit the Broncos for lack of playing time, and he's tired of risking his health.
I read about that, yeah. And he just felt like he'd seen too many guys walking away from the game, with less than half a brain, and he didn't want to join him.
Well, there's that. It also says here that he lost his love for the game and was, and I'm thinking, if I'm sitting on the sidelines, I don't know how much playing time he has. That'll kind of take the wind out of your sails. You work all this time to try to get a starting position and sitting on the sidelines the whole time.
What do you think, guys? I think once that kind of gets in between your ears, that thought kind of takes the edge off, right? Because you got to play with reckless abandon, as the cliche goes.
Well, I think part of it too is all the focus is on brain injuries.
Mm.
But what about all the joint problems?
Oh.
The guys I interviewed all have titanium knees, hips, shoulders. They're in pain from their 30s, 40s, 50s. It's chronic. It's daily. It's bad.
I think that's one of the things that he was kind of mentioning here, because he signed a 4-year contract worth nearly $3 million after Seattle, such and such, and he says he knows his teammates and fans don't understand how he can forgo all the fame and fortune of pro football, but he said that he didn't care about a shot at the Super Bowl because playing for the Broncos, he's got a pretty decent shot.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah, but maybe sitting on the
But,
sidelines.
it's interesting. Vernon was at the Raiders game last weekend in New York. I was at the 49er game, and at the 49er, I don't know what the Raider game was like, but the 49er game was a brutal knockdown, drag-out, heavyweight. Two guys left the field with concussions for the 49ers. Two other guys left the field with injuries. I mean, this is a brutal, vicious, violent game. And Gary, I'm curious to get your thoughts on the players. I mean, how do they don't mind the idea that they're going to be walking around with a limp or a titanium knee the rest
Probably
of
don't
the
even think about it at the time of the plan.
Invincible, right?
Yeah.
Right. Guys in their 20s look at themselves and their worlds a lot differently than guys in their 50s and 60s. When you're in your 20s, you're bulletproof, you're invincible, life's eternal, and you look at 50 and 60 through a telescope. When you're 50, 60, got a lot more wisdom and context.
Well, there's something here that we just said this one thing. There's something here that he mentioned. He says he's never had a history of concussions, but he acknowledged that all the blows he sustained in practices.
Mm.
When you think about that, we don't think about all the practices, how these guys are hitting hard.
Well, most teams do not hit much
No.
in practice in season. Training camp, yeah, but once the regular season starts, even once some of these preseason games start, these guys don't hit much at all.
I mean, that would make a little sense. You don't want to.
How is Joe Green doing, by the way, physically? I mean, what are his maladies?
Joe's doing pretty well. He's had a hip replacement, not moving exactly as he did when he wore number 75, but he's doing pretty well overall. But it varies across the board. They all got pain, and it's in the middle of the night when the game calls out to them in their bones and their muscles, and it's severe with some of them.
Yeah, here's one, Gary. I mean, back in their day when they're young and they're making plays and they're right, how were they perceived when they were going from game to game, town to town? Did they have the rock star status? And I can't believe outside of the name guys, they made that much money back in those days.
Well, in 1970, the average NFL salary was $23,000 a year.
Wow, think about that.
1980, it triples to $78,000. Now some of these Steelers, Bradshaw and the big name guys, were making several $100,000, which was a lot of money in the 1980s. They had the rock star status for sure by the third Super Bowl. And remember, they came to power at a time when television was really rising to power in American culture, and when the Super Bowl is becoming a national holiday, no team celebrates it more than the Steelers. mean, they become like Archie Bunker and Hawkeye Pierce. They're they become
Right.
TV characters.
Right.
And so, there was that. But they also dressed in this urban chic, attire. You had guys like Frenchie Fuqua, who would win their dress-offs in the locker room all the time. Frenchie Fuqua and his capes and his musketeer hats, and he was one of the guys who was wearing the shoes with the glass heels and water in it, and goldfish swimming around as he would walk through. So
that really happened too, didn't it? I mean, the goldfish in the heels of the shoe.
they did, but they died quickly.
I
was
bet.
gonna say PETA wouldn't appreciate that now.
So you say we're rock stars.
Can you imagine? Excuse me, I have to feed the fish. A few droplets in the heel.
Like Maxwell Smart.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because this guy Moffitt also says that now he doesn't have to worry about his 319-pound physique. He wants to go on a diet.
By the way, how much is the book? By the way,
The book.
yes,
The book is $28.
$28.
$12 on electronically.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm definitely going to buy it. No, I love these books, these history books on the NFL, and especially there hasn't been a good one really written about the Steelers. The Raiders have had a bunch of them written, but the Steelers, have there been any books written about the Steelers? I'm sure there have.
There have been books written locally in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
My goal here was to write about the Steelers then and now. Gain a book that moved across the decades with them to today really gauges how football affected them.
When these guys go back to Pittsburgh, they're not paying for any meals, huh? Even today.
Well, most of them still live in Pittsburgh. You see that with most teams. These guys make their claim to fame, and they stay there because they can leverage their fame.
Right.
Yeah. Smart.
Yeah.
Well, why not?
But, we had Sid Bream on. He's still in Pittsburgh.
He's still rounding third, Eddie
He's
Bro.
still-
Damn straight.
Bonds' throw bounced again.
Well, and it's funny. I didn't realize that he had 5 knee surgeries because I was telling him I wasn't trying to be insulting or anything. I said it was amazing watching the film how fast you came around third to come home, and I said you weren't really known for your speed.
Well, his knee was all wrapped up. It was all big and bulky. Remember?
I wasn't trying to be insulting him. He was no Deion Sanders,
Right.
And but he had reminded me or informed me that he had 5 knee surgeries. I'm thinking, man, that guy's fast. He said, hey, I can go from first to third, with the best of them. I said, okay, you got me on that. Changing subjects here. Richaard Sherman, there's a little thing here in Sports Illustrated about him being, he's a cornerback for the Seahawks. Very nice, seems like a decent guy, very good player. And he was talking about if he were
Niners might not agree with that, but anyway, go ahead.
Stanford kid, that's where Gary
Yeah,
teaches.
he played for Jim Harbaugh.
Richaard Sherman was a student in my class at Stanford.
That's
Is that right?
Yeah.
He was.
Excellent.
Good
Okay.
student?
Very engaged and engaging.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks like it here. So he says if he was commissioner, he would give the players back their individuality. I was just thinking about Frenchie Fuqua with the goldfish thing, and he says he would not fine players for wearing the wrong length socks or cleats with too much or too little, or one team with too much color. He says that he'd let them let them wear whatever they want for their interviews at their own lockers. I think that's kind of fair, right?
Sure.
He says, as long as they don't do it during the game.
Well, there's a reason they call it the No Fun League, I mean, seriously.
That's true, because at their lockers they have to wear, like the NFL team gear, the shirt, and nothing else.
Let me tell you something about Richaard Sherman you might not know. He comes from a hard part of LA. In fact, the same high school the Williams sisters had gone to, same part of LA, Serena and Venus. He was the first student from the school in 30 years to come to Stanford. And I remember in my class asking, it was a class about specialized reporting and writing about sports, and asking him and other students about their own biography, those who were athletes. There was just a few in the class, how it shaped the way they played. And I'll never forget what Richaard said. He talked about, he was a wide receiver at that time, before he changed to defensive back. And he talked about how he was willing to go across the middle and expose his ribs and expose his head to make a catch in ways that other receivers wouldn't. Because he knew that if he didn't make it in the NFL, he knew what he was going home to, a tough life.
Oh,
And it was one of those great moments in class where you can sort of feel the room expand.
Yeah.
That Richaard was really.
I guess he decided he wanted to hit people rather than get hit.
Can't blame him on that.
That Stanford education will do that to you. It'll educate you. Okay, moving on for just a minute here. Let's kind of stay on the football thing here. Former Notre Dame quarterback Everett Golson, he's taking responsibility for his mistake of cheating academically. So if you remember, he played for Notre Dame and against the Alabama for the big game. And apparently but they didn't go into too much detail here. Again, this is a Sports Illustrated article about the fact that he apparently did some kind of academic cheating on an exam, got caught. And Notre Dame is one of those places, they're just going to kick you right out.
Right.
But the thing is that I found kind of interesting here is that he didn't try to make excuses according to this article. He just fessed up and said, you know what, I made a big mistake. And it seems like it's opening the door potentially for him to potentially come back. He says, even though like 5 other teams or colleges have called him, he goes, nope, I want to go back to Notre Dame. And it kind of reminds me of like the steroid thing. Andy Pettit goes ahead, he admits it, and then he gets done with it. And everyone sort of forgets about
Jason
Andy Pettit.
Giambi, same thing with Jason, but Barry Bonds is never going to be forgiven.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Roger Clemens and McGuire.
Best way to handle these
Rafael
things is just.
Palmeiro.
Yeah.
Finger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
Well, the best way to handle those things, they say, is just to take it right on and just get it over with.
Yeah.
Like,
That's it.
like the guys that we had.
And that's true, and I think as far as a president is concerned, look at Nixon. I mean, Nixon could have averted the whole Watergate mess if he fessed up right away. Because look at Reagan and Ron Contra. Well, I didn't know that much about it, but I guess I was wrong.
And then you get Clinton to say, what's the definition of his? I never touched that woman. Well, what's the definition is? Okay, we're going to cut to our third commercial break. Final trivia question here. Again, the theme is NFL players who became offensive. We're not talking about their smell either here. Okay, who was the Hall of Fame all-time leading receiver for tight ends when he retired in 1990 that played his entire career for one team? First 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-660-4495 to answer this question. Who was the Hall of Fame all-time leading receiver for tight ends when he retired in 1990 and played his entire career for one team? Make sure.
Does he have a son that's in the league?
I think so. I think so. But we'll let you answer when we come back. Okay. So give us your email, your name, your email address. Speak slowly. Spell out your email one letter at a time. Don't touch that dial because when Sports Econ 101 comes back, we're going to have some closing comments.
Kellen Winslow?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would think.
Yeah.
That was my guess too.
Yeah. And I always remember that
1990 sounds too late, though.
I know. Remember
Don't be looking it up.
the great,
No, I'm not.
the great playoff game against Miami where he literally had to be helped off the field. He caught something like 17 passes.
That's what it was, yeah.
That
Was
was
it
amazing.
from Fouts?
Yeah, and they won that game in overtime. That was one of the greatest. I think it was a 37-31, something like that.
He couldn't have blasted that long. 1990?
He was in his prime in '81, so he would have had to have been in his late 30s. I was trying to think who else could be.
Who else was large back then?
I assume Tony Gonzalez has the record now.
I would think. I would think he would have most tight end records.
Yeah.
What happens when you play for 50 years?
George Bland played for 28 years, but of course George Bland was kicking.
And
most of the last.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What
28?
28 years.
That's amazing.
Played till he was 40.
It's like a Satchel Paige.
I'm sorry,
thing,
26 years. He was 48 when he retired.
How old was Satch? He was in his 50s or something.
Yeah.
He was pitching.
He came back and actually pitched in an
pitching.
a regular season game with the A's, and he was, I think, 63.
63. Oh, like Bill Lee.
Billy.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll come back. Just a couple small things here. Time goes very quickly with this. Ready? Oh, by the way, I've got your pounding thing over there.
Oh, I haven't pounded yet. I've been silent.
What does that mean?
You know,
I used to, for emphasis,
Yeah,
I would like pound the
and
table.
it goes like this. So
You heard that?
so my
Wreaking havoc on the sound man. Right.
Drive it.
ears are all boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Okay, get ready?
Yeah.
And here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn, Bruce McGowan,
Hello.
and our special guest, Gary Pomerantz.
Good to be with you.
Thank you. The third and final commercial trivia question break. You guys are 2 for 2 so far. Who was the Hall of Fame all-time leading receiver for tight ends when he retired in 1990 that played his entire career for one team? Vern Glenn.
We had guessed off camera Kellen Winslow.
And you would be not 3 for 3. You are incorrect.
Incorrect.
Sorry.
Who is it?
Ozzie Newsome for the Cleveland
Ozzie, of course.
The thing is he wanted to be Kellen Winslow.
Okay, so we'll give you half credit for that one.
I always remember Ozzie Newsome was the guy that Brian Sapp tried to hit for the winning touchdown against the Raiders in that game, and Mike Davis stepped in front and intercepted it, and the Raiders went on to win the Super Bowl that year. Great play for Mike Davis. And there's a guy, you talk about problems with health. Oh, my God, he's had some terrible problems.
Well, Ozzie Newsome, he went and built the Baltimore Ravens, did he not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah.
And does he have a son who plays?
No. Kellen Winslow does.
Yeah, Kellen doesn't.
Kellen doesn't.
Okay. Did you hear about this? France is thinking about imposing a super tax on income over 1 million euros. Okay. Now they're talking about it be the responsibility of the employer. So in protest, owners of teams in the country's top 2 soccer leagues, which I assume in France soccer is still popular, will not hold 1 week's worth of games next month.
Wow.
Is that an in-your-face type of situation?
Gee, boy, is France that much in financial trouble? They
Yeah,
had to
the
go after
unions.
Man.
Yeah, no, that's a good point on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, we are going to cut out here. Here's our thoughts for the day. Adversity causes some men to break, others to break records. A gentleman named William Ward said that. And never let the fear of striking out get in your way. Babe Ruth. Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and giving away more vacations for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long. It's like our signature. But you have fun.